Right. Okay. Can the stage crew come onto the stage with the sofas, please? And I'll tell you where to put them. Oh, that's better. All this means is that I can now walk about while being embarrassed. Okay, microphones on the sofa, that's good. 2 chairs in the middle, sofa on the other side. When it's played on radio, this isn't a problem. This never happens. Every time I walk near the edge, these guys at the edge kind of rush across as if I'm about to stage dive. If I suggested virtually anything, you'd have shouted, "Do it," there, wouldn't you? I'm, as I say, the Hugos are the pivot around which my world turns. They are my favourite thing. They are the thing which makes this Worldcon, I think. Apart from you guys, apart from fandom. Fandom is the most important thing. And other crowd-pleasing gestures. Do you know, I was in a panel the other day, and I met Scalzi outside, who was going to run the panel in the room next door. And he said, "I'll tell you what, Paul, in a minute you'll just be hearing laugh after laugh after laugh coming from my panel, and it'll be one of those panels where you're sitting in a panel and you hear laughter through the wall and thinking, they're having a better time than I am." And what I did was, I got an artificial laugh going. I got the panel to create an enormous laugh in the audience, and that really freaked him out. And I don't think he knew that was artificial until tonight, so don't tweet that. Let him go on wondering. Okay. Thank you, wonderful tech crew. We are ready. So, first up, I'd like to introduce a woman who will be scoring this evening, my wife, Caroline Simcox. Okay, can we have a warm welcome for each of our contestants in order? First up, ladies and gentlemen, Big Bad Bill Willingham. Be careful with the water and the microphone, Bill. You never know. Next up, Sean and King Cobra Maguire. Lauren Seven Deadly Sleuths Bucas. And last but not least, the EasterCon Just a Minute champion, the British champion, John Luxury Dowd. Okay, so what I'll be doing is asking each person in turn to begin a subject of my choosing. I won't be challenging them on the rules we talked about earlier, you remember. Their fellow panelists will be challenging them. You'll see how it goes. So, let's start with the only person in this panel who's played this before. John, I'd like you to talk for a minute without hesitation, deviation, or repetition on the subject of My Favourite Martian. My Favourite Martian, starting now.
My favourite Martian is actually a show I'm very, very fond of.
Interruption from Seanan first. Seanan, what's your challenge?
My challenge is repetition. He said very, very.
He did. Oh. Newbie error from the champion, my goodness. Seanan, you get a point for a correct challenge, and you have 55 seconds on the subject of My Favorite Martian, starting now.
My Favorite Martian originated in a novel by H.G. Wells entitled War of the Worlds. This Martian, upon arrival in the country of England, proceeded to decimate the countryside, slaughtering thousands of people. It was a charming afternoon for everyone involved, at least those who lived. In the end of the scenario, the Martian was felled by a simple pathogen, which relates to my undying love of anything disease. Therefore, My Favorite Martian will forever be that which arrives in a large tripodal organism and proceeds to trample anything that gets in its way. This includes livestock, trees, houses, villages, churches, libraries, small children, prams, dogs, cats, squirrels, badgers, hedgehogs, levees, dikes, the occasional shrubbery, and on at least one notable occasion, an entire...
Time! Having played this a long time, I'm a little stunned. Seanan gets a point.
Couches with me?
No.
Seanan gets a point for speaking as the whistle went. Oh, I think there was a kind of just wanting to let her go, wasn't there? My goodness. Okay, Lauren, I'd like you to speak for 1 minute without hesitation, deviation, or repetition on the subject of invisible girls. Invisible girls, starting now.
Invisible girls are incredibly troublesome. You just don't know where they're going to turn up. They're not as bad as the invisible man, who is technically a rapist. They tend to...
John?
I think that was a pause.
I think that was a pause. Point to John for a correct interruption, and you have 50 seconds on the subject of invisible girls, starting now.
I've not seen any invisible girls, and I believe it's actually difficult to perceive them because...
Yeah, Lauren?
Pause. Hesitation.
I didn't hear a long enough hesitation there. I've set the quantum hesitation limit, and I think John gets the benefit of the doubt there. John gets a point for an incorrect challenge and has 42 seconds on the subject of invisible girls, starting now.
I've been in this town now for 3 or 4 days, and the weather has been dreadful. It's been very sunny and hot.
Challenge.
But
Yeah, Lauren?
Deviation.
It seems to be a deviation. John, where are you going with this?
I was going to go with this, with the resistance of invisible girls to sunburn.
I think he's right.
We got to see where that's going.
I'm with John.
I can only say that since he managed to answer that immediately, that's obviously where he was going, so he gets another point for an incorrect challenge, and you see what he does now, don't you? John's got a point for an incorrect challenge and another 33 seconds on the subject of invisible girls, starting now.
Invisible girls are hard to find. You can look for them in many, many places.
Seanan got there first.
Many, many.
Many,
Repetition.
many indeed. So that's a correct challenge from Seanan, who has 28 seconds on the subject of invisible girls, starting... starting now.
When one is attempting to resolve an infestation of invisible girls in the home, it is best to have the following articles on hand: spray paint, flour, and cornstarch. These can be flung into apparently empty rooms, causing the invisible girls to appear. They will probably be quite put out by this. So it is also considered wise to have mace. Provided you have...
I heard Bill first. Bill, what's your challenge?
Definite pause.
Definite pause.
I grant him the pause.
Vamping for laughter is what that was.
Actually, breathing is what that was, but I still grant him the pause.
Bill gets a point for a correct challenge and 5 seconds on the subject of invisible girls, starting now.
Sue Richards, also known as the Invisible Girl, as far as I can tell, married...
And time. And Bill gets another point for speaking as the whistle went. And it's Bill's turn to begin the subject. Bill, I'd like you to talk about, without hesitation, deviation, or repetition, for 1 minute on the subject of 7 dwarfs. 7 dwarfs. Starting now.
Pause.
I just heard Seanan first of everybody in the room, really. Seanan, what's your challenge?
Pause.
Pause, yes indeed. Seanan gets a point for a correct challenge and 58 seconds. That was like something out of the King's Speech.
7 dwarves.
Oh, is this an erotic reverie? What is it? What?
7 dwarves.
Seanan?
I'm ready to begin.
Seanan, you have 58 seconds on the subject of 7 dwarves. And I'm looking forward to this list. Starting now.
The 7 dwarfs first entered my life as part of a Disney film entitled Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. My middle sister Melissa promptly became obsessed with this cinema masterpiece.
Bill?
Deviation, and yet she was already beginning to rein it back in the moment I said, oh.
Well, actually, okay, if you're admitting that it's not a good challenge, then point to Seanan for an incorrect challenge. And incidentally, I should point out to the audience that our guests are able to repeat the subject that I give out. They're able to say 7 dwarves as much as they like. So, point to Seanan for an incorrect challenge, and Seanan has 48 more seconds on the subject of 7 dwarves starting now.
Her bedroom was promptly rendered into a cathedral to these small creatures, which drove me frankly insane. I began my study of fairy tales and folklore partially to give my sister as many nightmares as humanly possible. It turns out that 7 dwarves are very useful when one wants to seek cognates for them in other literature. Deadly sins, for example, can be used to cause one's siblings to sleep in their closets for upwards of a month, by implying that those same individuals may make an appearance in the living room at some undisclosed interval. It is also possible with 7 dwarfs to cognate them to... I would repeat myself, I'm sorry.
Stop the clock.
Self out.
And,
you can have it.
And astonishingly, well, after that act of suicide, John was the first person to actually... What's your challenge, John?
Well, she had actually stopped at that point.
Yes, she'd stopped, yes. So, John, you've got 7 seconds on the subject of 7 dwarves, starting now.
Many years ago, we...
Bill?
Pause? Or...
What pause? What? He said many years ago.
Deviation?
I jumped
Help
on a
me out
grenade.
here.
You fell on one.
Bill, that's an incorrect challenge, and John has a point for an incorrect challenge, and 5 seconds on the subject of 7 dwarves. Stop feeding him. 5 seconds on the subject of 7 dwarves, starting now.
I played the part of Doc in a school production of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs.
And time. So, John gets a point for speaking as the whistle went, and I have to keep all of you in my peripheral vision. John gets a point for speaking as the whistle went, and I can just see you as Doc.
Well, yes. We were, in fact, the 7 largest members of the cast. That particular pantomime.
How wonderfully diverse.
Yes.
Okay.
You should have seen me the time I played Cinderella.
It's good to...
I had to dye my beard white.
Seanan, it's your turn to begin the subject.
Oh, joy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like you to talk on the subject of a deadly virus?
Hesitation. Challenge.
Lauren, we haven't begun yet,
But
but...
she's hesitating. You're giving her so much time to think about it, and that's the last thing she needs.
Well,
I've been thinking about deadly viruses since I was 4.
I haven't begun the round yet, so we're kind of in a meta area outside of point scoring. All I can say is sort it out amongst yourselves.
Jordan, you want to take this outside?
Sorry? Sweetie, I outweigh you by a factor of 3. That's not going to end well.
I'm small but deadly.
So is Ebola.
This will be round 2 this evening. Okay, so, Seanan, you have a minute to talk about a deadly virus without hesitation, deviation, or repetition, starting now.
My favorite deadly virus is difficult to quantify as there are so many to enjoy. The Centers for Disease Control, located in Atlanta, Georgia, is somewhat concerned about my love for deadly viruses, especially my obsession with smallpox, which they assure me is extinct both in the wild and in all laboratory environments that I am likely to enter in my lifetime. It is very, very...
Yes, please.
Oh, I heard John first. John, that was...
That was the repetition.
It was. And she stopped when she heard the repetition as well. Okay, John, you have a point for a correct challenge, and 37 seconds on the subject of a deadly virus, starting now.
A deadly virus is one that causes death. There may be...
I saw Lauren just first.
Hesitation.
Hesitation.
That was definitely a hesitation.
We all 3 called it.
You're picking on me because I'm a cured stammerer.
Mob rule.
I think the audience kind of agrees it's a hesitation as well. So yes, let's go with that. Lauren, democracy in action. Lauren, you got a point for a correct challenge and 31 seconds on the subject of a deadly virus, starting now.
Some of my favorite deadly viruses include Ebola, smallpox, anthrax. I'm running out of other viruses to mention, so I'm going to move on from this list. And
John.
Repetition of viruses.
That's part of the
Indeed,
topic.
yes. A deadly virus is the subject, viruses is not.
Well played, you devious bastard, sir.
You're no Cinderella.
There's only one way to win, and that's to win.
So, John gets a point for a correct challenge and 22 seconds on the subject of a deadly virus.
Have we just been visited by one?
That was one of those moments when I thought, are my flies open? So that's 22 seconds on the subject of a deadly virus, starting now.
Anthrax is not a virus, so it cannot be a deadly virus. It is actually some kind of bacterium, I believe. Deadly viruses work by infecting the nuclear material of a cell and taking it over for their reproduction.
I think I heard Bill first.
Stumbling over a word that caused a pause.
Indeed, there was a pause there. There was a dirty great pause earlier that nobody paid any attention to, but it's your game. Bill, you've got a point for a correct challenge, and 4 seconds on the subject of a deadly virus, starting now.
Coincidentally enough, a deadly virus was my pet name for my last girlfriend, whose name was Rebecca May.
Beep! Time.
Good, the time hit. I was about to call him for repetition.
Yeah, I was about to go for that too. You're lucky, Bill. You
So-
got away.
Bill gets a point for speaking as the whistle went.
Do
Kevin
I
just
get
walked on
another for
stage for
telling
no
the
good reason.
Do I get another for telling the absolute truth? Oh, the crowd turns against me.
The crowd's been against you.
So, I think we've worked out what you all do. Seanan creates huge lists and storytells at great length. Bill comes in the last 4 seconds.
I love playing the last 4 seconds.
John lures people into traps, and Lauren challenges them to a fight. So, after our first round, Caroline, how are the scores doing?
Lauren is, I'm afraid, coming in last place with 1 point.
Hold it. Hesitation.
Only just in front of her is Bill with 4. Seanan has 5, but John is in the lead with 8 points.
Wow! Wait.
And it's John's turn to begin the subject. John, I'd like you to talk about the subject of, without hesitation, deviation, or repetition, for 1 minute, the subject of the time traveller. The time traveller, starting now.
As far as I'm concerned, there are 3 kinds of time travel. I call them type 1, 2, and 3. The first one...
Bill first.
Repetition, word 3. 3 kinds of time traveler. I call them 1, 2, and... Wait for it. 3.
Indeed, there was.
Well, listen.
Indeed, there was. Point to Bill for a correct challenge, and 50 seconds on the subject of the time traveller, starting now.
The time traveler is my least favorite genre of science fiction story. Also in my least favorite genres of...
Sean and fish in a barrel, my goodness.
Repetition.
Repetition indeed. A point to Sean and another 42 seconds on the subject of the time traveller, starting now.
The Time Traveler has been the subject of a great many books and movies since the inception of the genre. It is not actually possible to list these, as it would involve repetition, so I will focus instead upon a favorite, The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. In this lovely work of literature, a time traveler goes forward and backward in time, encountering both
Repetition.
Lauren, what was your repetition?
Time.
Except time is written on the card. So,
You're just feeding her points now.
and Lauren, and I noticed a little twitch from John as he thought about it and went against. So, Lauren has made an incorrect challenge. Sean gets a point for an incorrect challenge, and Sean 16 seconds on the subject of the time traveller, starting now.
Time, encountering creatures that have evolved far beyond those of our modern time period. These, including the Eoli and Morlocks, are creatures that have deviated from the human norm, which our time traveler represents. He is attempting...
And time.
debate.
Sean gets another point for speaking as the whistle went. And so we move on to Lauren. Lauren. Hello, we haven't heard much from you.
I know.
How are you?
I'm going to blame this on jet lag and the fact that I have a sloth, and sloth is slowing me down. Yeah.
The sloth is slowing you down.
That is my excuse, and I am sticking with it, damn you.
Luckily, you're the first professional writer who's been slowed down by sloth.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, so Lauren, I'd like you to speak for 1 minute without hesitation, deviation, or repetition on the subject of Apollo. Apollo, starting now.
Apollo is a very fine god. He was part of Greek mythology, and I think it was actually Roman mythology, and I'm getting them completely confused now.
I saw Sean move before I heard Bill.
Repetition, mythology.
Indeed. Point to Sean for a correct challenge for mythology, and Sean has 53 seconds on the subject of Apollo. It's not a classical education you got, is it? Did you? It's all about bugs and diseases. 53 seconds on the subject of Apollo. Oh, they really like you. 53 seconds on the subject of Apollo, starting now.
As Lauren mentioned, Apollo the sun god was a member of the Greek/Roman pantheon and spent a great deal of time on Mount Olympus. Mount Olympus was repeated.
John.
We had slightly too many Mount Olympuses.
We did. Point to John for a correct challenge, and John has 44 seconds on the subject of Apollo, starting now.
Apollo is a character in Babylon 5, I believe. I have seen this programme.
Bill?
Pretty long pause there.
Yeah, I'll go with the long pause there.
I think there was a pause, and that's also not true.
Battlestar Galactica.
Well, he
it's
said he
something like
believed. If he
Similar
believed, it was true.
Yeah, he did prevaricate it, so...
Yes.
Soon we will begin to eat our own young.
I do love how this game starts to stretch at the bounds of reality. Point to Bill for a correct challenge, and 37 seconds on the subject of
I'm
Apollo.
sorry, I can't do 37 seconds. I wanted the 4-second mark. Can we? All right, fine.
37 seconds on the subject of Apollo, starting now.
Apollo Creed was my favorite of the Rocky villains in a series of movies that packed theaters to the gills. Also, movies that packed theaters to the gills. I know. What? What would you like to say to me?
I would like to say that you repeated the word movies.
Oh, I thought you were getting
Movies,
me
packed, gills, all sorts of things. Seanan gets a point for a correct challenge and has 26 seconds on Apollo. Yes, that was it. 26 seconds on Apollo starting now.
Apollo shared his home with a great many other gods. This included Minerva, Acapete, Persephone, Melpomene, Erato, Terpsichore, Clio, Calliope, Polyhymnia, Polymathea, Urania, Pan, Puck. Occasionally, when the time suited, Zeus, although primarily he was off in the countryside seducing young women in the form of a swan. No one knows why.
Time.
Stop looking at me like that.
Point to Seanan for speaking as the whistle went. You'll be doing this when you get home now. It'll be we need biscuits, tea.
You think I don't do that already?
Bill, I'd like you to speak for 1 minute without hesitation, deviation, or repetition on the subject of parallel universes. Parallel universes starting now.
My favorite of all the parallel universes are the ones where Bing Crosby accepted the role of Columbo. Also, the parallel universes.
I saw John move first.
I think that was a hesitation.
That was a hesitation you could have
That
driven
was
a
a
truck
dramatic
through.
pause.
If
Applause is a hesitation, it's a
called for
synonym.
vamp in the audience earlier, you get called for your dramatic pauses, buddy.
I think
I
Bill
don't
and
know
I
if I...
need.
Well, look, those
like,
surly
more
bastards
credit.
turned against me a long time ago.
They're invisible.
You can't listen to them.
I don't.
The audience has been eaten by Gru.
I've never experienced an audience booing somebody like a pantomime villain in this game. That's
Really? Okay, how many points does that work?
okay.
That's got to be a few.
John got a point for a correct challenge many years ago and has 49 seconds on the subject of parallel universes starting now.
There are many parallel universe stories, but the ones that I particularly like are the ones by H. Beam Piper and his Paratime.
Sean.
Repetition, he said the ones twice.
Oh, he did. He did, didn't he?
He did.
Yes, he did.
Yes, I'm afraid I did.
The ones I particularly
did
like
we
are the
decide
ones
ones
where-
was a
Ones-
danger word, though?
Actually, ones is long enough to qualify, I think, particularly in
All
the
right.
circumstances where he's hugely in the lead. So,
I agree.
Seanan gets a point for a correct challenge and has 41 seconds on the subject of parallel universes starting now.
I have always been a great fan of parallel universes. My favorite current television show, Fringe, utilizes these in a very, very...
Please.
And again, John got there.
Oh, really?
So,
Before my O?
Yes, I'm very, very grateful for that one.
Can Bill and I not
I
have a
stopped
handicap
myself,
here?
unlike some people who try to sneak their repetition under the radar.
So, John gets a point for a correct challenge. I saw him
Don't
move
try and make
first.
him the villain. I'm the villain. They said I'm the villain.
Hey, hang on. Can we have a big boo for Bill, please, so he'll feel better?
Thank you.
Thank you. You may resume.
John gets a point for a correct challenge and has 33 seconds on the subject of parallel universes starting now.
The Gunpowder God.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I apologise, I wasn't ready. Can we start again?
Seanan, yes, you get a point for a correct challenge and 31 seconds on the subject of parallel universes starting now.
Parallel universes may be utilized in any genre and have been used in...
Can I have a repetition on utilise, please?
Utilized and used are not the same word.
Indeed.
You mentioned utilised earlier, I think, in the earlier
I think
segment.
you did. Maybe it's just a word
You can't see this right now, but she looks seriously pissed.
Okay.
This
No,
time.
actually, this is not pissed. This is perplexed.
Hush, audience. Is John correct in thinking that Shaunan utilised...
Don't bring the house
That's a
lights
clear
up
yes from the
because
audience.
now I can see who's turned against
I
me.
don't know either way, and the audience are saying a word that sounds like yes and no at once. I'm getting mixed messages. This is a really complicated relationship.
Paul,
So,
Well, would you be
I'm
prepared
calling,
to-
I'm calling dead ball. That we're not doing that bit at all. We'll go back to the status quo before the interruption without points being scored because I can't call it either way. So, we were at the point of who had the subject? It was Shaunan, and has 27 seconds on the subject of parallel universes starting now.
Fringe, Star Trek, both original and next generation, My Little Pony in the classic episode Revenge on Katrina, Velveteen versus...
Bill?
How long does it take? What's the ruling on how long it takes to recognize a repetition? She used Fringe the first time
Yeah.
before it was
She did,
taken
there
away,
we
and
are,
then started
absolutely.
with Fringe the next time.
Okay, correct challenge to Bill. So that's a point to Bill for a correct challenge. 18.
Do not boo on correct challenges, guys. They'll throw me off this stage and I don't bounce.
You did on mine.
Okay, Bill has 18 seconds on the subject of parallel universes starting now.
Parallel universes also include the one where Tom Selleck got the role of Indiana Jones, my favorite of the action-adventure heroes
Shaunan.
in the
So-
days...
Shaunan.
Repetition. He used roll the first time.
I doubt it.
You did.
He did. Correct challenge to Shaunan. And Shaunan has
But I'll never admit it.
10 seconds on the subject of parallel universes starting now.
It is my sincere hope that at the end of this convention, I will return to a parallel universe in which my roommate did not leave the refrigerator unplugged for the last week. This is highly unlikely, as he...
Time.
Well played. That was exactly 4 seconds longer than the end game I want. I'm not comfortable with...
Shaunan gets a point for speaking as the whistle went. And it's Shaunan's turn to start the subject. I'd like you to talk for 1 minute without hesitation, deviation, or repetition on the subject of the worst thing about steampunk. The worst thing about steampunk. Yeah. Try and be the good girl with that.
Luckily, there's no way you can be caught lying about this.
Starting now.
The worst thing about steampunk is the fact that it has driven hordes of goths seeking a new clothing extravaganza into my craft stores, where they pick over the scrapbooking supplies with the avidity of vultures going after a corpse next to the road. This is highly problematic for me, as it interferes with my own crafting.
John?
No, sorry.
Oh, no, it's too late, I'm afraid.
I'm sorry.
So Shaunan gets a point for an incorrect challenge and has 42 seconds on the subject of the worst thing about steampunk starting now.
My friend Kaya Folio draws a steampunk comic entitled Girl Genius. Actually, I believe she writes it. Because of this, she has very little time to answer her phone, text messages, or emails. I have not had a private lunch since Melbourne, Australia, which was a full year ago when the Worldcon...
Bill?
I'm just calling deviation on that.
No, worst thing about steampunk is it takes up all of Kaya's time. If you can talk about Tom Selleck getting movie roles,
I think that's
I can bitch
entirely
about my
fair.
friends not having time for me.
I've known Kaya longer than you. I've known Phil longer than you, and I know what really takes up Kaya's time, if you know what I mean.
No. See, none of my friends ever do that. They just bake lots and lots of cookies. Vixie swears.
Oh, there's cookies served. There's cookies served. Oh, I repeated myself.
Is this still last night? Am I dreaming? Okay, so that was an incorrect challenge. Shaunan gets a point for an incorrect challenge, and 26 seconds on the subject of the worst thing about steampunk, starting now.
I write urban fantasy novels, which are frequently displayed at a bookstore called Borderlands Books. In recent days, many
Bill?
The first time you started up, you mentioned store as craft store. Now you said bookstore, but you did say store twice.
Bookstore is a single compound word. Craft store is two different words.
I've never been more attracted to you than right now.
That's good to know.
That's so true. Right. She lawyered me.
I think Seanan is indeed correct. Seanan gets a point for an incorrect challenge. And has 20 seconds on the subject of the worst thing about steampunk, starting now.
A flood of steampunk titles have been hitting the market, causing all covers to look roughly the same. In this sea of brass, rivets, gears, and oddly shaped ray guns, my fairy detectives seem a trifle out of place and can even be overlooked. This is the worst thing about steampunk, that it renders me an oddly...
Time! Seanan gets a point for speaking as the whistle went, and horribly, it's Seanan's turn to start.
No, that was my turn to start.
It was her turn.
She started
you
that
gave
time.
me the worst thing about steampunk,
Okay,
Paul.
okay. So at the end of the second round, my wife is waving me away. Happens a lot.
Go bake her some cookies, Paul.
We didn't cover one rule while she's figuring things out. Is like bribing the scorekeeper. What's this?
Do you take bribes, O Reverend in the Anglican Church?
Offer her cookies.
Sadly, no.
You got some pity, though.
Well, I definitely need a prayer.
Right. Okay. At the end of the second round, Lauren has 1 point.
Yeah!
Bill has 7 points. John
Really?
Has,
No.
John has 11 points.
Commit to the clapping or the booze, but not this.
Scoring, and then we'll get
John
some...
has 11 points. And Seanan has 19 points. Now, this is the point where I look into the wings and say, have we got time for another round? Or are you going to be complete spoil sports and put a stop to our revels?
Mercy, please.
While he's waiting, can we have a good boo for Bill? Because he's sad. Thank you.
I'm just going to start another round.
Was that
in
good for
case.
you for her,
And
or
this
good
will
for
be
you
our,
for me?
This will be our final round. I'm going to give you each a title, each quite a difficult title, from a work of SF or fantasy. So, John, I'd like you to speak for 1 minute without hesitation, deviation, or repetition on the subject of Beyond Lies the Wub. Beyond Lies the Wub. That classic Philip K. Dick story, Beyond Lies the Wub. Starting now.
I can't tell you very much about Beyond Lies the Worm, having never read the book, but I suspect it's something to do with the worm and working...
Lauren?
Repetition, because the correct title is Beyond Lies the Wub, not Worm.
Indeed, yes.
And now
See,
I've heard myself.
I just assumed I was hearing the accent really badly.
If any of you can
Beyond
should
lies
be able
the
to understand
wub.
my accent, it's John.
Beyond Lies the Worm.
The wub.
I heard worm quite clearly.
No, it's the wub. The wub. The
He
wub.
said
It's not
wub.
a word.
Now, yeah, I thought this contest didn't allow
it's not a word I
non-words.
call deviation.
Should we-
Deviation from English. It's not a word.
If you didn't hear the title, maybe you
If Philip
deserve
K.
to...
Dick
can't
were playing,
score
you could
points off
take him a
me.
point.
You can't go back in time and reset what Philip K. Dick wrote. It's the wub. And Lauren gets a point for a correct challenge, which she needs. So, Lauren, 52 seconds on the subject of Beyond Lies the Wub, starting now.
I must confess, although I have read many Philip K. Dick stories, and he is one of my favorite writers, that I have not read Beyond Lies the Wub.
Seanan?
Red.
Read twice indeed. And we were enjoying that. We've heard so
I was
little
getting
from
so
her.
close.
Seanan, you got 44 seconds on the subject of Beyond Lies the Wub, starting now.
Beyond Lies the Wub is a classic Philip K. Dick story, and yet has not been adapted into a movie, which is very unusual for Philip. You're the only one that hasn't played.
Well, I know, Lauren put a hand in the air.
Great, I can talk more about a subject I don't know.
Indeed.
Excellent.
So Lauren gets the subject back with 37 seconds remaining. Lauren, 37 seconds, Beyond Lies the Wub, off you go.
As Seanan pointed out, there have been many Philip K. Dick movies made.
John?
She did mention Philip K. Dick earlier.
She did, yes. Point to John for a correct challenge, and 34 seconds on the subject of Beyond Lies the Wub. Starting now.
Beyond lies the wub. Beyond lies the wub. I'm not entirely sure what a wub is. Never having seen a wub, I can...
That's just too much delaying and pausing.
Yes, there was a delay in the pause. A point to Bill for a correct challenge, and he has 25 seconds on the subject of Beyond Lies the Wub, starting now.
Beyond Lies the Wub reminds me so much of my favorite cartoon character, who was always hunting a wabbit named Bugs Bunny. And he would say things like, "Aye, there's the wub," when he's quoting Hamlet, which is a pretty good play.
Deviate. Yeah, Lauren.
No, I'm going to tie it all back in.
Yeah, go on, how?
How?
I'm not entirely sure.
Hey, I'm up to 3 points, maybe.
Lauren, you get a point for a correct challenge.
And I'm back on the damn subject.
And 14 seconds on the subject of Beyond Lies the Wub, starting now.
Excellent films made do not include Beyond Lies the Wub. And I've lost it.
Can I have it then, please?
I said,
Yeah, there was. Okay, so I kind of told Sean visually to stop, but yeah, Bill, she actually stopped. Bill got there first. So Bill, correct challenge, and 8 seconds on the subject of...
Just a point of... Seriously.
We're in the last round.
Wub is allowed as a word because it's in his title.
Yes.
Yes.
But we're allowed to speak about any wub we know. Therefore, the Elmer Fudd wub was...
No.
What, do I wub you the wrong way?
No.
How are you getting to wub with Elmer Fudd? He only distorts one letter in a word.
Of course you're an expert on Elmer Fudd.
I have little sisters.
So, I
happen to have Elmer Fudd right here.
And Bill's got the subject with 8 seconds remaining on Beyond Lies the Wub, starting now.
Beyond Lies the Wub is a word that I haven't...
deviation.
But it starts at some...
John.
Deviation from incomprehensible English.
Yes, indeed.
I'm with John.
Even more so than most Americans.
And we have a new villain, ladies and gentlemen.
It's okay, Bill. I wub
Take
you
it
very
back,
much.
Bill.
I can't even count on you turning on me? You're fickle.
Okay, John gets a point for a correct challenge, and 2 seconds on the subject of Beyond Lies the Wub, starting now.
Beyond lies the wub. What is a wub?
Time! So John gets a point for speaking as the whistle went. Andrew, 5 minutes. Okay. This will be our last round. I mean to say the last round of going through. So Lauren, Bill, and Seanan will all get a chance to start a subject.
Oh, great.
Lauren, I'd like you to speak on the subject of the incredibly... No, not that one. I've prepared for this. I'd like you to speak on the subject of the stars.
District 9, come on.
The Stars My Destination. The Stars My Destination.
That's a good one.
Starting now.
The Stars My Destination obviously refers to not having the planets as your destination. Going beyond the stars, you get into...
John?
Oh, sorry, no, stars are
Yeah.
it's on the thing. I apologise.
Incorrect challenge. Lauren gets...
Can I interrupt?
No,
Because
well, you can in a moment when she starts again, but you can't challenge
okay.
within a challenge.
All right.
The universe would explode. Lauren gets a point for a correct challenge and has 52 seconds on the subject of The Stars My Destination. That was it. Starting now.
Some of my favorite interstellar planetary bodies, I'm making words up now, include nebulas, including...
I think I saw John just first. John. Right.
I'm
Point to
trying
John
to be inclusive, come on.
for a correct challenge.
I'm all in favour of people being inclusive.
And 44 seconds to John, starting now.
Oh, sorry.
44.
I was expecting you to read me the subject title before saying
Yeah,
starting.
I didn't use my normal form of words. 44 seconds to John on the subject of The Star's My Destination, starting now.
Alfred Bester's work, The Star's My Destination, is another one I've not read for a long time. But yes, it is about stars. It does have the word destination in the title. And
Shonan. Oh, I'm sorry, Shonan, that was a challenge.
Fair enough.
An incorrect ones. So a point to John for an incorrect challenge. And 32 seconds on the subject of The Star's My Destination, starting now.
the stars are not my destination immediately because I'm sitting here on a...
I got Bill first there.
Pause.
Pause indeed. Bill has 26 seconds on the subject of The Star's My Destination, starting, and it's not your favourite 4, is it? But 26 on the subject of my favourite, The Star's My Destination, starting. It's just, well, I'm not playing. The Star's My Destination, starting now.
The Star's My Destination is a tale of degradation, define explanation in all the... nice lady!
That was very impressive.
That was a terrific attempt.
It was. That was brilliant.
I lost the fourth rhyming word, and I never do that.
This could so easily become a rap
Deprivation.
battle. A point to Seanan for a correct challenge, and 17 seconds on the subject
I'll
of The
get it
Star's
back.
My Destination, starting now.
The Star's My Destination was one of the first science fiction stories to inspire a classic folk song, which would go on to win the Pegasus Award. This is the most coveted honor in this community, and is only given in instant...
Deviation.
Bill, yes, I think that's deviation, isn't it?
No, I was actually looping back to the fact that it being given to The Star's My Destination in the second year of the award caused more filkers to read that story than would ever have occurred without it. Because frankly, it's just not a very good story.
Of course,
See, now they're booing me.
but of course they're going to side with you because they're all a bunch of filkers. Look at them.
You can't see them!
We've had general hatred from the audience of just about everybody on the panel
Except
now.
for me, I'm still the good guy.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that is deviation.
Fair
So
enough.
Bill gets a point for a correct challenge and 4 seconds. On the subject of The Star's My Destination, starting now.
The Star's My Destination is a very...
Time!
First person to burst into song on this stage? Not me.
I told you that the third round was going to be Just a Minute, the musical. I warned you.
Bill gets a point for speaking as the whistle went, and I'd like Bill to start this time on the subject of Slaughterhouse 5. A minute on Slaughterhouse 5, starting now.
Slaughterhouse 5 chronicled the harrowing tale of the firebombing of Dresden, which took place, as every schoolboy knows, in the World War II, which wasn't actually the World War II, but will...
I saw Lauren first of all of them. I gather that's...
Repetition?
It is indeed. And you have 47 seconds on the subject of Slaughterhouse 5, starting now.
I believe that Slaughterhouse 5 was recently banned at a library, and the Vonnegut Society decided to give out copies to everyone who applied for them. I think library banning is a very bad thing.
John? Oh, library, yes. I wouldn't have given it for hesitation, but indeed library.
I'm
That's
going
a
for
point.
deviation.
A point to John for library, and 35 seconds on the subject of Slaughterhouse 5, starting now.
In the town where I grew up, there were a number of slaughterhouses built at various times.
Lauren.
There was...
Deviation.
No, by
I
the rules.
think because he started on about the number of slaughterhouses, I
Yeah.
suspect I knew where that was going.
Yeah.
So, an incorrect challenge, and 29 seconds, and this is getting perilously close to that Monty Python luxury sketch. You had a slaughterhouse, did you? Luxury. John, you've got 29 seconds on the subject of Slaughterhouse 5, starting now.
Initially, there was Slaughterhouse 1, then they built Slaughterhouse 2, going on to Slaughterhouse 3, then 4, and eventually getting to Slaughterhouse 5. This slaughterhouse was down at the bottom of a street where the cattle and sheep were brought in.
Bill?
I had to call the hesitation on
Yes,
it.
I heard a hesitation. I wanted to know where that was going. A point to Bill for a correct challenge, and 9 seconds on the subject of Slaughterhouse 5, starting now.
Also known as the Children's Crusade, it was a very wonderfully crafted subtitle because it tied in with the actual historical event.
Time! Bill gets a point for speaking as the whistle went, and so for the final time in this game, I'd like Seanan to talk for 1 minute without hesitation, deviation, or repetition.
Oh, just give her 5 points and let's move on.
On the subject of Space 1999. They like that? Space 1999, starting now.
Space 1999 was a huge part of my childhood. It appeared on Saturday nights on my local PBS television station, right after Doctor Who, but substantially before the late-night horror movies would come on. I would watch Space 1999 raptly, waiting for the day when a space station would be constructed on the moon and thrust out into unknown reaches of space by some accidental lunar incident. I really hoped I would be able to be there when it happened, because I wanted to see the shape-shifting aliens that had been constructed out of burlap, oatmeal, and the occasional piece of cardboard. When I attempted to make these myself, utilizing my younger siblings, who were often resistant to the process for some unexplained reason...
Oh, I have
Bill.
to call deviation.
Yeah, I think... Oh, you just like her. How is this charming family scene related to...
I made them act out scenes from Space 1999. I actually did. You can call my mom. I have my phone.
But,
Let's do
which
that.
caused
Paul,
her...
I
I'm
think-
not
but that's
kidding.
not the point, because she was talking about her
Which-
siblings' love of certain craft works, which has
No,
only
I was
a
talking about their
tertiary
resistance to being
resemblance
made
to
over
the
into Space
subject
1999 monsters. And
I
when
say
they
we call her
objected...
bluff and phone her mom.
Yeah.
matter. Yeah.
Let's do it.
This is going to be one of the odder phone calls. Go on, then.
Put it on speaker.
I did. I'm waiting for
Okay,
it to pick
good.
up.
It's on speaker.
She hasn't picked up yet. Hi, Mom. Can you talk, okay?
Hi?
Say something. Can you guys hear her? You were on speakerphone on the Masquerade stage at Worldcon.
You're on the masquerade stage?
It's the no, the Hugos haven't happened yet, Mom. That's tomorrow. I've been challenged on a point of abusing my siblings.
Yeah?
I need you to confirm that I used to make them dress up in stupid costumes from those sci-fi shows I watched on Saturday night. Do you remember when I did that to Melissa and she cried for like 3 hours?
We want
Yeah.
definite information that it was Space
Yeah, they do like you
1999.
very much.
Yeah, no, she didn't like me very much, but can you just repeat that for the microphone?
You made them dress up silly and they didn't like you. They used to complain all the time.
Okay, thank you, Mom. I'll call you tomorrow. I love you. Bye-bye.
What does that look?
That is the look of first I lawyered you and then I called my mom. I think we're engaged.
Hold on.
I want to point
Can-
for suggesting that.
Can I call my agent?
Point to Seanan for a correct challenge, and with 16 seconds left on the subject of Space 1999, starting now.
This resulted in great familial conflict and my mother attempting to rescind my privileges. I countered by pointing out that Space 1999 was actually an educational program and taught me a great deal about gravitational fields, lunar pull, and why we need to wear...
Up. Repetition of lunar. She
Oh,
used
yes.
lunar in the first segment.
She did
She used
indeed.
lunar this time.
Did indeed. Point to Bill for a correct challenge.
How many seconds left?
One second.
Second.
Go, Bill, go!
Bill, I'd like you to talk without hesitation, deviation, or repetition on the subject of Space 99 for 1 second, starting now.
Space 1999.
Time.
By the way, do I get an extra point for you trying to sabotage my win here? Because you said, I want you to talk without deviation or hesitation about Space 99.
It's been a long night for us all. Bill gets a point for speaking as the whistle went, and Caroline is just totting up the scores. So,
I want a pity point.
You've got 3 at least.
can we have a big round of applause for each of our contestants? In 4th place, with 6 points, Lauren Bucas. And otherwise, it's quite close. In 3rd place, with 16 points, Bill Willingham.
They love me!
Thank you.
In 2nd place, with 18 points, it's John Dowd.
Oh my goodness, the crown has fallen.
And so, the new, with 22 points, the new Worldcon Just a Minute champion is Shauna Maguire.
Yay!
And her mum.
And my mom.
I'd like to thank my wife, Caroline Simcox, for scoring and timing this evening. And we'd like to invite Phil and Kyla back to the stage to resume your evening's entertainment. You've been a great audience. I've been Paul Cornell. Thank you and good night.
I hear things were said, but I didn't hear what.
Good. All right.
Well, we're back. I'll bet you thought you got rid of us, but you were wrong. And the very first thing that we're going to do now that we're back is say some thank yous. First off, we'd like to thank our fantastic production staff who worked harder than I've ever seen to make everything perfect on this. The renovation technical director, Marcy Hansen, the deputy technical director, Chuck Shimada, the production supervisor, Bill Keaton, show technical director, Larry Schroeder, assistant technical director, Michael Rafferty, house manager, Seth Breedbart, sound designer, Scott Kludge Dorsey, the sound playback, Leah Olsborg, lighting designer, Larry Schroeder, lighting board operator, Hobbit, and the follow spots, that's the tricky job, Richard Hutter and Scott Beckstead, and let's not forget our MC prompter, Chris Doyle, without whom we would be lost.
Okay. And I get to name the video crew. Let's see, we have director Sid Weinstein, Gene Bennett, technical director Peter Olzak.
These are all handwritten, by the way.
Yeah, by Olzuaka. Audio for unit.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. John Maisels. Cameras were run by Ted Marshall, Kathy Beckstead, Bill Keaton, Dave Gallahan, and Carl Zwanzig. The grips were Brianna and Dennis Seifert. The engineer was Nate Maines, and the shader was Dick Carline.
Dave
Dave
Carline.
Dave Carline. Dick couldn't make it.
Handwritten.
Handwritten.
By hand.
By
Let's
hand.
clap for them
Thank
now.
you.
Yay!
These and all of the people that we have named tonight have given up hundreds of hours merely to entertain a dark room. We don't know if there's anybody out there or not, unless you applaud. Thank you. All right. Okay. Before we get to the awards, we have a very special event that two of our entrants would like to share with you. Would the Reverend Christopher J. Garcia please come to the podium? Hey, Chris.
Hello, how are you? Yes. If there's one thing Worldcon is about, it's love. So tonight, I am honored and privileged to bring to you a meeting of two worlds, two people, in the bounds of holy matrimony. Come on out, Brian and Meta. Give them some applause. Let's do this at least somewhat officially. Dear people of Earth, we're here to recognize how much awesomeness it is to be together and be happy and be wonderful and be awesome in awesomeness. And let's just get this done with. Do you promise to do stuff? Yeah. Do you promise to do stuff? Excellent. Wait, let's make sure you can hear that.
Yes.
Excellent. Then, by the power vested upon me by the state of Nevada and the good people here at the Worldcon, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may now tentacle the bride. Woo! My cell phone broke.
I don't think they'll notice if we take the lectern back.
That was pretty much what our marriage was like, wasn't it?
It was exactly like what our marriage was like, especially the tentacles. All right. I like the way you said what our marriage was like, by the way. That's especially nice. Thank you. We'll talk.
Wedding.
I know what you meant.
No, that's right.
No. Yesterday, luminaries from the great schools of magic competed for bragging rights as to whose students are the most knowledgeable. The producer of Magical University Challenge, Leanne Hildebrand, would like to present the winners to you now.
And we will let her.
And we will stand aside and let her do that.
Good evening. Yesterday afternoon, for the first time at the inaugural Magical University Challenge, 4 teams competed for the Worldcon Magical University Challenge Championship. Those teams were Brakebills College, Miskatonic University, Unseen University, and Hogwarts School. In the first round, Brakebills College performed poorly against Miskatonic University. Those who were there alleged there was some apathy, and Miskatonic advanced to the finals. In the second round, Unseen University and Hogwarts also had a very competitive round, but ultimately Unseen University triumphed and went on to the finals. In our final round, with Unseen University and Miskatonic, it was a very close round up until the last couple of questions. However, ultimately, Miskatonic University reigned supreme and took the day. Therefore, if the players of Miskatonic University are here, could they please stand if they are not too mentally incapacitated due to the strain of the performance yesterday? congratulate these players on their fine performance. They are now, at least until we crown another, the Worldcon inaugural Magical University Challenge champions.
Thank you very much, Leanne Hildebrand. And, of course, you'd like to know who won, wouldn't you? And maybe we'll tell you. But not yet, because the costume clubs and organizations often give out special awards to entries that reflect their unique interests. And tonight we actually, sadly, only have one. Tonight, Pierre Pettinger will present the Blammy on behalf of the Armed Costumers Guild. It's called the Blammy. Yay!
Long ramp. Now I got to get some eyes on here so I can maybe read the certificate we wrote up. The Armed Costumers Guild is a chapter that heavily promotes the ancient and well-respected tradition of melding costumes and weaponry. And so we very often present a Blammy Award, which is a memorial award for Richard Heil, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. Many of you may know his wife, Julia, who was very prominent on the stage, both at Worldcons and Costume Cons. This year, the Armed Costumers Guild Dick Heil Memorial Blammy Award is presented to Tori Stenmark for her Jane McMillan Avatar Driver. I'm sure she's having the same time getting up that long ramp. I can tell a joke.
And now, would the judges please join us on stage to actually tell you who won? They promised they'd come when I said that.
Anytime.
Threaten to tell a joke, Phil.
Oh, I will. All right, sure. So, this duck walks into a bar.
It's not working.
I love this joke. So, duck walks into a bar, and bartender says, "Well, what do you have?" And the duck says, "Well, you got any grapes?" And the bartender says, "No, we don't have any grapes. This is a bar, not a fruit stand." And duck goes away. Well, the next day, the duck comes back and walks up, and the bartender looks at him, and duck says, "So, you got any grapes?" And the bartender's starting to get a little annoyed, even though it's kind of unusual to have a talking duck. But he's like, "No, we do not have any grapes. We serve alcoholic drinks. If you don't want an alcoholic drink, get the hell out." So the duck goes away. Well, third day, duck comes back in, and the bartender looks at him, and the duck looks at the bartender, and he goes, "So, you got any grapes?" And the bartender's had it by this time, and he's like, "Okay, forget it. Get out right now. If you come back in here again and ask me for grapes, I'm going to nail your beak to the bar." And the duck is like, "Whoa," and the duck leaves. A couple of days go by, no duck. Bartender thinks maybe this is over, much like people are wondering about this joke. And the duck comes back in. Bartender looks at him. Duck comes up. Bartender's ready. I guess
finish the joke.
Okay. And the bartender and the duck says, "So you got a hammer?" And the bartender's like, "No." And the duck says, "You got any nails?" And he's like, "No, this is not a hardware store, it's a bar." And the duck says, "No hammer?" "No." "No nails?" "No." "So, you got any grapes?"
must. I hear it all the time. Hello.
Hello.
So glad you're here.
I have more jokes.
No, you don't.
And I have to follow that.
Please.
Good evening, folks. We're going to start with the young fan presentations. Entry number 1, Young at Heart, best recreation in the young fan category. Okay. Best in Class, Young Fan. Entry number 2, Amy in the TARDIS. Ladies and gentlemen, our young fan presentation winners.
Sorry, there was traffic back there. I brought it from LA. All right. In the Young Fan Division, we awarded an award for Best Prop to entry number 2, Amy in the TARDIS. I wanted to make a mobile phone joke, but I know. Just call me Phil. And those are our awards in the Young Fan Division. Stay. All right. Novice.
Okay. Right. Presentations in the novice category. Persistence of Vision goes to number 10, Phoenix. She's coming. Best Steampunk goes to entry number 11, The Darling Gang. Most humorous goes to number 13, Princess Pac-Man. And Best in Class Novice, and the winner to a membership to Costume Con 30, number 26, Night at the Sci-Fi Museum.
Sorry, let me correct this.
Best in class night.
Yes, I wrote. My apologies, I wrote it wrong.
Okay. We have it now. Thank you. Our clerk has corrected us. Best in class novice, number 23, Baby Cybershade. Ladies and gentlemen, our Novice Presentation Award winners.
All right. So, workmanship was kind of scary at this convention in a good way. We wanted to give an award to every single person back there. Everyone did something fantastic, and unfortunately, we couldn't do that. So, workmanship awards in the novice division. An honorable mention for patchwork to entry number 6, Adventures of Seymour T. Camel. And I know you couldn't really see it from stage, but the gentleman's patchwork coat is actually entirely pieced. It is not a pre-made fabric, and the darts line up perfectly across the seams. It was actually pretty incredible, very impressive. All right, also in the novice division, best use of recycled materials to entry number 23, Baby Cybershade. Her outfit was actually made out of 30 cut-up black t-shirts that were individually hand-sewn onto her garments. Best accessories in the novice division goes to entry number 18, the Anubis Gate. This was one you actually had to get up really close to see. There are over 1,000 individual handmade tiny little 1/4-inch spirals of copper steel, of copper wire. If you get a chance, walk up to her and look, because it's incredible, and I'd imagine I would go blind doing that. So. All right, best in class in the novice division goes to entry number 10, the Phoenix. Oh, and she also receives a Costume Con 30 membership for next year, because we definitely want to see more from her. All right, and these are the novice winners for workmanship.
Give them just a moment to clear the stage and the ramps behind us. All right. Journeyman Division Presentation Awards. The Shiny Eco Award to number 12, Tabulous. Best in Class Journeyman, number 21, Nothing to Wear. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, the Journeyman Class Award winners.
All right. For workmanship awards in the Journeyman Division, we awarded Best Makeup to entry number 17, Jane McMillan, Avatar Driver. It took her almost 4 hours to be airbrushed into that makeup. She's been wearing it since 8 this morning. And unfortunately, it didn't show from the stage very well, but the little white dots that she has all over her are actually ultraviolet reactive to echo the phosphorescent look. Best accessories in the Journeyman Division goes to entry number 12, Tabulous. Yeah, I think she explained it all pretty well in her presentation, but the weaving is just incredible. All right, and best in class for workmanship in the Journeyman Division goes to entry number 3, The Wizard of Oz. Fun fact, only one person in that group was a journeyman. The rest of them were all novices, and they were still crazy awesome. So pretty much a shoe-in there for us.
Oh, it's no good. I can't scare these crows off.
What have you tried?
I have this flamethrower and this high-tension discharge emitter. girls just laugh.
All right, and these are your workmanship winners in the Journeyman Division. Congratulations.
Moving right along. In the master class, worst internet meme. Number 14, Semi-Precious.
Waiting for them.
Okay. Most elegant, number 25, the Undine. Most nostalgic, and I remember this movie too. Number 27, The Blue Meanie Blues. Okay. Best in Class Master, number 28, Intergalactic Dating Game.
Bachelorette number 1 has a glow in its eyes, but really just wants to serve and won't drop the ball.
Ladies and gentlemen, our winners in the master class.
The Workmanship Awards in the Master Division were especially difficult to judge, as it was quite a wide field with a lot of different things going on that were all incredible. So narrowing it down was a bit like pulling teeth, except not as much fun. So, in the Master Division, an honorable mention for electronics to entry number 24, Katamari Damacy. Unfortunately, it didn't really show up on stage, but both of their costumes lit up and blinked, which you might have gotten a glimpse of at the very end. And those aren't pre-made discs. That's all LEDs that they wired together to light up like that. It was pretty awesome. They were also really, really heavy. In the Master Division, an award for Best Dye Works to entry number 25, The Undine. And once again, it was all hand-dyed, and it flowed beautifully, and I'm going to steal it. Just fair warning. In the Master Division, Best Transformation of Materials to entry number 27, The Blue Meanie Blues. The blue fur wasn't actually fur. It was something like 29 clown wigs that were ripped apart and sewn together. It's a lot of clowns I had to sacrifice. Best in Class Workmanship in the Master Division goes to entry number 20, Music of the Spheres. Not only was it beautiful with electronics, but there was also hand painting to create all those images of the planets. And it's all velvet and shifty organza, and it's just a pain, and it's beautifully executed. And these are your winners for workmanship in the Master Division.
This was a very difficult masquerade to judge. We agonized over this to the point where we couldn't decide between two entries for Best in Show. So we have two Best in Show entries. Best in Show Original for presentation goes to number 26, Night at the Museum.
They told me not to let anything in or out. Wow, some of these exhibits are pretty lifelike. Pew, pew, pew.
We're going to bounce back and forth a little bit here. In workmanship, there was one entry that jumped out at us because it was excellent across a number of disciplines and techniques and all kinds of different things going on and everything going on fabulously. The Best in Show Workmanship Award goes to entry number 28, Intergalactic Dating Game. The sculpting, the casting, the sewing, it's all way up there. If you haven't gotten a close look at these costumes, attack them in the halls. But not too violently.
All right, and finally, and definitely not least, Best in Show Recreation, number 17, Avatar.
Well, Angati Kameye, Masmukansis Muke. I see you, my brothers and sisters. We came to Pandora to see if it held any hope for Earth. Our research is promising.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Best in Show Worldcon 2011.
And that concludes the awards portion of tonight's masquerade. But wait, there is more. Please welcome back our masquerade co-director, Kevin Roach.
So, what do you think of the Peppermill? Before you think about running away, we want you to know that this place is hopping tonight. First of all, Biscotti's, right out there in the lobby, has decided to stay open late in hopes that they can sell you more gelato. So, take advantage of it.
Don't disappoint them.
Right now, the Regency Dance is still going in the Capri Ballroom, to be followed by the Club Dance. The Club Dance tonight, besides featuring the spinning talent of Jean Badiano, who was the baby Cybershade, includes performances by Dr. Demento and Hugo-nominated Rachel Bloom. You do not want to miss this dance. And right now, as you exit, if you make your way to Naples 7, they are preparing Whose Line Is It Anyway? I can't read my own handwriting. Whose Line Is It Anyway? The game show. And if you get there early, you get to write the questions that the hapless contestants will have to answer. So we encourage you to spend a little more time here at the Peppermill before you run off to wherever else you might go, because there's so much happening here tonight. So there is one final thing I would like to say. A personal thank you to the costumers who created the art you got to see, to all of the people who worked, so very hard to make this show so brilliant and to make Andy and I look good. We had a vision, but they made it actually work, and it wouldn't have happened without any of them. That's why there were so many long lists of important names. And finally, I would like to personally thank my friends Phil and Kaya Folio for emceeing tonight. Kaya wasn't sure when I had asked her to do it at first, but she was just as shiny as I knew she would be, and the two of them together rock. And there's only one line left on the sheet of paper. Who wants to read it? Let's let Phil read it.
You do it.
Which one?
That one.
Thank you for attending the Renovation Masquerade. Please make sure to take all of your personal belongings and exit the hall safely. Thank you for coming and see you next year.
Oh my
Hey!
God. It's a munchkin of some sort.